Almost everything I know about Kubernetes has been learned in my own Kubernetes Homelab, and I've learned more in my Homelab than I learned from enterprise Kubernetes environments. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how I've set up my Synology NAS as a storage provider for my Homelab, give you a quick tour, and tell you everything you need to know about Homelab storage for your own Kubernetes Homelab. So let's dive in. So a quick overview of my Homelab. I am using Talos Linux for my Homelab. If I do get nodes over here, we see that I have 4 nodes running, and this is the Kubernetes version I'm currently running. And if I do wide, then we also see the Talos image that I'm currently running, 1.8.2. And when you're starting out with Kubernetes Homelabbing, I don't recommend going into Talos just yet. Then I would highly recommend just using K3s. So this is what I'm running. In terms of hardware, I use a ThinkPad T430 as my control plane. Just an old laptop, which is my control plane. And then I have my HP Elite desk over here. I have 4 of these running. These are refurbished old enterprise hardware, and those are the nodes that I'm actually running. And the Synology that I have is a DS224 Plus. It's not a very big one, it's not a very expensive one, and it has plenty for me currently. Although I am looking to upgrade because I'm storing a lot of video material on there these days. So why would you want to use a Synology NAS for your storage? Because these nodes that I showed you, they already have storage in them, right? They already have SSDs. And if I go to my cluster, then you will see if I go to get storage classes, here we see that I have my Rancher local path installed here. This is not installed by default when you're running Talos. However, when you're running K3s, this is the one that is installed for you. And local path means that it will provision a persistent volume from the storage that is available on the node. And that is a key word here, on the node. Local path is fine. It works great. But the problem is if you have multiple nodes like I have, and if I then, for example, do a Talos upgrade, then what I want to do is I want to drain one node, upgrade that node, and then re-add it to the cluster. If my storage then is bound to that node with local path, then I am not able to reschedule the pods that are on that node to a different node. If I have my nodes here, this is one node, this is the second node, then the storage that I'm using is actually attached to the node itself. And if I then have a few pods on here, then normally, for example, in a cloud Kubernetes offering, if I'm doing a Kubernetes upgrade, then I will just reschedule the pod to a different node, and then the persistent volume claims are separate. They are not living on the nodes, they are living in a separate storage provider. And therefore, they can connect from here to the storage or from here to the storage. It doesn't really matter. It's node independent. And this was the problem that I had in my own Kubernetes cluster. I was not able to reschedule pods to different nodes as long as I was using the local path. So that's why I decided to go for the Synology option. Synology has a iSCSI driver for Kubernetes. Here, it's a Synology CSI. So this means that it has a CSI driver for Kubernetes, which means that you can provision storage on the Synology NAS, which is then separate from your nodes. And if you then reschedule a pod, it is killed on one node, it is being brought up on a different node, but the persistent volume claim is still living on the Synology NAS. So it disconnects, it reschedules, and then it reconnects to the persistent volume claim. And if you are in the process of building a Kubernetes Homelab, or if you want to learn how to do it, I have a full Kubernetes Homelab course available in my private DevOps community. It is 8 hours long, but if you are completely new to Kubernetes, then I also have a Kubernetes fundamentals course, in addition to tons of note-taking courses. But what's most important is that you can network with over 400 other engineers. I have weekly group coaching calls where you can ask me questions directly. And if you get stuck while creating your home lab or learning Kubernetes and DevOps, you can ask questions in the community 24/7. Check it out. I think you might like it. So let's check out what this looks like in practice. I'm in my home lab dev pod here. And if I get notes, I have my home lab cluster available. And I have prepared a very simple storage.yaml file here, which will provision a persistent volume claim. It's named demo, and that's it. It's just going to create a persistent volume claim, which then is going to create a persistent volume underwater. So if I do kget pvc now, there are no resources in the default namespace. But if I open up my Synology NAS here, well, this is the controller, I should say. So this deployment is on the Kubernetes cluster itself. And this is the controller that handles the attaching and detaching of the persistent volume claims. So if I just open up this as on the logs, and I'm going to split my screen, open another instance of my home lab dev pod here. If I then apply fs.yaml, now we see that it's going to start a PVC processing, etc. It is now already hard at work. And here we go. The persistent volume claim is now created. So if I do kget pvc, here I see my persistent volume claim. It has also received an ID. And if I then go to my Synology NAS over here, I can open up the storage manager, SAN manager, I should say. And here I have 3 unread events. So we see here, it has now mapped a LUN and an iSCSI target to the PVC. And we saw here that the ID was 7C80, and here it is 7C80. So if I go to iSCSI, and if I then search for that C80 over here, here we go. Here it is. Here is the CSI C80. Here is the actual LUN and the iSCSI target that we have just created. So you can actually see them in your Synology NAS. And I could even go here and take snapshots if I wanted to do that. So you can actually, on the Synology level itself, you can back up the data. I currently don't do this. I just do databases and I back them up to the cloud. But there is a way of even backing up these persistent volume claims if you really don't want to use your data. So this works really well. And if I then would reschedule this pod to a different node, then you would see in the logs that it's just detaching it and then it's rescheduling it and it's attaching it to the different pod. It works really well. Now, if I go to get storage classes, then you will see that I have an iSCSI, iSCSI retain, and I have an ISMB retain. So let me explain what this is about. The default storage class has a reclaim policy of delete. And these are all defined in code. So storage class here. So if I check out my retain, for example, here, this is the standard one, is default class true. So this storage class is defined in code in my home lab repo. And I just select the CSI SAN Synology storage provider. I direct it to the IP of my Synology. I give it the iSCSI protocol. And then the reclaim policy is delete. So that means when I delete the PVC, which I can do here, delete PVC demo, then now it is deleted. So if I would have set a reclaim policy of retain, it's automatically going to retain the persistent volume that was associated with the PVC. So if I do kget bv now, and then grep demo, then we see there is no demo persistent volume here anymore. If I had set this to retain, I would have had to delete it manually. So I have a couple of other different storage classes. And I have the retain, I have the delete, but I also have a SMB. So you can also provision Samba shares from your Kubernetes cluster, which is really interesting because I can then provision storage on my Kubernetes cluster, which I then can connect to, for example, on my MacBook and just mount that drive over the Samba protocol. And I can interact directly with files on that drive if I want to. And there are some use cases for that if you want to have access to notes or something that you want to share. So it is very powerful to have a Synology as a storage provider. Now let's take a look at how this is configured. So as I mentioned, I'm using the iSCSI storage driver that is created by Synology, but then because I'm running Talos, they have their a user that has created a fork of this, which is then optimized for Talos Linux. And this is the one that is in the documentation. You can just use the documentation to set this up. But this Synology CSI Talos basically contains a full guide on how to configure this. It's a bit complicated. You have to build your own container images with some secrets, etc. But it's all doable. It took me a couple of hours and then it was done and I never had to look at it again. So just follow this guide. But when you have set this up, it is basically set and forget. So I use this guide from the Talos documentation to do this. This won't apply if you're doing K3S. Then there are other guides to do it. It's probably a little bit simpler than when you do it for Talos. But all of the information is readily available over there. And in my case, so I have this deployed through GitOps, and I have the controller.yaml, the CSI driver.yaml. These are all taken from that repo, basically. And then you have to create your own storage classes like I showed you, and then you are good to go. And when you then create a persistent volume claim, and here I have my Synology iSCSI as a default driver, then it will use that as the storage driver for the storage. Lastly, one thing to note is that when you're using Talos, it's very important that you use the iSCSI tools. So you have to go to talos.dev, and then you have to create a custom image here that includes iSCSI tools. Here, Synology Labs iSCSI tools. This is extremely important. If you don't have this in your Talos image, then it won't work. And I configured it, then I updated using a standard image, and all of my storage got wiped. And I thought, wait, why? And then this was the reason. So very important that you remember to build a custom image for Talos as well. So that's about it. That's how I use Synology storage in my home lab. It is by far the best solution I have found to date in order to get up and running with storage quickly, if you're not using the local path, that is. And if you want to know more about creating a Kubernetes Homelab, if you want to connect with other Kubernetes engineers, then I highly recommend you jump into my Kubernetes DevOps community. I have a full course on how to create your Kubernetes Homelab using only a Raspberry Pi or an old laptop. It will teach you everything you need to know, and it's the only course of its kind on the internet. Hope to see you soon.